Casey. How are you?
I'm good, yeah, man. How are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. What's going on? What's on your radar today?
Not much, just digesting all sorts of news. New Model Y,
Yeah,
but
what did you think of the new Model Y? Anything interesting? Anything surprising for you?
I can't say anything that really sticks out as a main feature, but I think there's a lot of small features that I would like truly enjoy and value from a car. So I think it's just like a firming up of Model Y as, the leader in EV market. So it definitely does that. But yeah, nothing that sticks out. I don't think there's anything that like anybody will be like, oh, I gotta have it just because of this one thing. But a lot of small things. I mean, a lot of small additions, a lot of very minute little things. I don't know if you saw Kyle's video on that. He did a 1 hour breakdown from China of the new Y, and it's. I mean, he could barely get all the stuff in 1 hour. That's how many small changes they've made to it. So they're all good all together. But one of the things that he highlighted, which I personally would have liked to see, would have been a better battery composition. So a larger battery, and if not a larger battery, at least a better charging curve. I mean, he compared it to Zeekr cars, I think is what he was mentioning in China, where they're already charging 0 to 80 in 10 minutes. And as you recall from my trip just this week, I would love that. I need that.
Yeah, it's interesting that Tesla didn't make much of a change on the front, on the battery front, whether it's faster charging or bigger battery, longer range, etc. I mean, I wonder if they will send a software update later on once the production ramps or whatever. But I think in their history they did that once or twice, but they haven't really that hasn't really become a thing. Yeah, I mean, it was very much. I didn't see Kyle's video yet, but if you look at the major things, there isn't much of a difference between the Juniper upgrade, the refresh versus the Highland refresh for the Model 3. And I pinned at the top the search interest change for the Model 3 back a year ago when that was brought into the US, and also the Model Y now. So it's a very similar kind of small bump. And obviously, the Model 3 refresh didn't lead to a huge surge. And I'll put this on YouTube as well. It didn't lead to a huge surge in orders for the Model 3. I thought when they announced the refresh, I thought the Model 3 would, become a very popular vehicle. But yeah, it's popular, but it's not any more popular than it was before. So, um, and then we've seen a similar thing for Model Y. So that tells me that the headwinds that Tesla is facing, they're not really product related. They're more around EVs in general, as well as high interest rates and also weakening consumer. Negative equity that Tesla owners have in their cars from 21, 22, etc. And interest rates that's still high. Um, credit card delinquencies have risen. Auto loan delinquencies are rising. So, these are just fundamental major headwinds that simply cannot be outdone with a tail light, a new tail light, you know. So it's going to take something like FSD unsupervised, but I don't think FSD unsupervised is coming anytime soon. So, so I pinned at the top of your screens a bunch of half a bets that I offered to people. First come, first serve. I haven't really seen anyone take these bets. I think people are generally just agreeing with my takes here, and maybe I'll start making more aggressive bets. I don't know, but I was hoping this couple of people would take these bets. Kind of surprising that no one did.
Well, as you invited me to speak, I was actually typing up a reply back to you. Would you consider a geofenced limited city rollout as unsupervised?
Yeah, yeah, we can do an FSD unsupervised bet for 2025, even if it's geofence. There's no way. I mean, I shouldn't say there's no way, but I'm highly confident that it will not happen this year. And I'm actually pretty confident it's not going to happen next year either. But let's stick with this year for now.
Okay, I will take that bet.
Okay. So you think that FSD unsupervised is going to start somewhere this year? Okay. I'm going to type that up. I'm going to type that bet up while Steven chats. Steven, go ahead.
Just to go off of ACDC's question, what about if they had a remote driver in tail? Would that still count as unsupervised?
We wouldn't know if there's a remote driver or not. So,
I mean, we might. There's certainly a lot of pictures out there. We saw them of a Waymo.
oh, wait.
Sorry, yeah, I mean a follow vehicle or a trail vehicle, I guess.
I don't think there'll be any follow vehicle. There could be possible remote supervision of it, and I'm not sure that would be disclosed.
Do you think they have the bandwidth to support remote operation of the vehicle? Because don't they just have the 2.4 wireless chip in the vehicles, or did they upgrade to the 5 gigahertz yet?
So the new Y actually has a 5 gigahertz, which makes me think that the robotaxis will also have that. And I was watching one of Chuck Cook's videos yesterday too, and one of the points that he makes and what he would really like to see is crowdsourcing of vehicle data. And I think it would be so immensely powerful for unsupervised rollout because, like in my local markets, when there's a certain narrowing of a street or something, or some street that's been out of commission or closed, FSD has to figure out what to do every single time. And sometimes it'll do something different and because it's solving the problem each time. And Chuck's point was if we have this kind of like crowdsourced data being shared among vehicles, then this could really streamline those decisions. Like, hey, that obstruction that was there last week, it's still there. You got to act the same way. So I think this 5G is definitely going to be a plus and maybe lead into that too, but it could definitely help in the supervision.
Okay, ACDC, the bet is at the top. And, basically I'm saying it's not going to start anywhere. You're saying geofence, whatever. Either way, you win. If it starts anywhere at all in 2025, operation domain restricted, then you still win. I don't think it's going to happen any chance.
So you're just giving me a verbal caveat in the bet because you've not stated that in the text like you usually
Yeah,
do. But I'll
no,
take your word
it's
for
fine.
it.
Yeah, it's totally
Okay.
fine. It's
I
just
know, I
that,
know. I'm kidding.
yeah, because I reply to the spaces, and the spaces are recorded, like not on X, but the recording is on YouTube, so we can always check the wording if needed. But I am so bearish on FSD unsupervised that it's not even close in my mind. So I don't need to do kind of word by word. But the thing is, like, I also think that there's a chance, there's a high probability that hardware 4 will never have FSD unsupervised either.
So, yeah, man, I was in the same camp and I was thinking that, but more and more that I drive in my car with 13.2.2, it seems like it can literally do 99% of the drives. Okay. And I know what you mean by the
And I agree with that. I agree.
99.999,
I agree with that.
right? But
Yeah.
so lately what I do is, as much as I don't like to do it because it takes its own time and everything, I go to work and I put it on. I have to go somewhere else, I put it on. And what I'm noticing is that it's not really convenient to me, But in terms of acting like a robo taxi, it's definitely able to do that. So if they were able to take that, right, into a limited market where, if there are specific edge cases that come up, so there's an edge case that comes up for an unprotected left turn right around my neighborhood, it's terrible. Okay. They can solve those edge cases for those markets, the few that are there. And I think they can do a limited rollout. All these things have to do is really just drop you from point A to point B. My bigger concern actually is, as I've been testing it, I'm really trying to use my mindset. Like, okay, this is a taxi. Okay, it just dropped me here. Now, what is it going to do? And I'm trying to figure out, because right now it can't do anything, and they're not training it to do anything else, right? But what is it going to do? Is it just going to keep wandering around the road, or is it going to go park itself somewhere? How will it know where to park? Where is it allowed to park? Those are some of the things that I'm still thinking, but I think they can get there.
Okay. So you're saying basically that Tesla can do what it did. So Tesla can do in 2025 what it demonstrated at the Warner Bros. Studios. Basically, take a few months, collect lots of data, and map out a certain section of a city and start FSD unsupervised that way. And I agree with you. They can do that. Okay. You're saying that, right? That's basically what you're saying, right? Correct?
Yes, in
Okay.
limited
And
markets. Yeah.
and I agree with you that they can do that. Okay. The problem, however, is that takes a lot of engineering time and it doesn't contribute anything to the top line or the bottom line. Nobody is going to buy a Tesla just because it can drive a few blocks in one city and that's it. Nobody's going to do that. They're going to wait until it can drive in their own city everywhere. Okay. Um, so, because of that, Tesla will not invest the engineering time or the capital or take on the headache of regulatory approvals to do that. So it's not going to happen. That's why. It's not because it cannot happen. It's because it won't. Because Tesla will choose not to do that. And the biggest evidence I have for that hypothesis is that Tesla hasn't done that, even though that's been possible to do for the last 5 years. So why now?
Well, personally, I don't think it's been possible for the last 5 years. I mean, I've had FSD for about a year and a half. Okay, and it wasn't there even just a year ago. Okay, and I know what you're saying, and I completely agree with you that financially it doesn't move the needle. Okay, but their expenses on something like this are minimal. I mean, what are the regulatory expenses, right? What are the additional expenses for a team to solve out the edge cases and limit it to a geofenced area and stuff? It's not much. What the expense for an app catered to that limited market? That's not much. But you're also looking at a company. I mean, this company is built on hype. Everything that they deliver is based on hype. The stock price is something that they focus on highly. The 1010 event, that was all hype. So if they can do something like a 1010 event, roll out a specific vehicle for that, they can surely put something together just to make a case for it further and display it, even if it's on a limited basis. So that's where I
Well,
think. I think they're going to show that hey, here we are. We said that we're going to be there. Here it is.
okay, but putting events together for primarily hiring purposes is not the same as devoting, like making fundamental business decisions for the company. That's not the same thing. Like they're not shaping strategy just because they put up an event together. They're doing these events for hiring purposes. They want to attract the best engineering talent, for which there's immense competition from all mega cap companies as well as other companies in other countries. And you know, so what is the cost of doing this? Um, to build, let's say, for Tesla to map out basically what Waymo is doing, Cruise is doing, okay, and collect the data, deal with regulators, a bunch of regulators, local regulators, state regulators, NHTSA, etc., at a deeper level, and all the filings and everything that they're going to have to do for this purpose, I'm guessing they would have to spend somewhere in the hundreds of millions of dollars range, which Tesla can't, by the way, do. They have low margins, and those low margins will continue for a long time, for years to come. So they don't even have the capital to do. And there is no return to it. I mean, look at how much money Waymo's losing, you know? So why not wait until it's at a much better level that it will start driving orders as soon as you announce it? Why not do that? Why not keep all the data close to its chest as they have been doing for the last few years, last decade really? And like, why change the strategy today is really the main question. And I know you're saying FSD wasn't there 5 years ago or even last year, and it is. You're saying it is there today, but you've actually said just now that it can't drive. It can't do 99% of the trips, which is what I've been saying for more than a year. As I have tested every version of FSD in Austin um, in recent years. So I've been saying for more than a year, it can drive more than 99% of miles if people just let it. And it's become smoother today than it has before, but it definitely cannot drive 99.9% of miles. We know that. And some people argue, some people who don't want to, allow it to kind of take its time to figure things out, they argue that it can only do 90% of the miles. I'm sorry, 90% of the trips. But I'm patient, like Omar is patient with FSD as well. I think it can drive 99% of the miles, especially now that I think next they're going to introduce the context window size. I think it's going to be able to handle lane selection a little better. It's going to be able to handle some of the more complex scenarios better. And maybe that's the way to get to, more than 99% of trips, because according to FSD tracker, it's still 97% of the trips, even with AI4. So, um, the question for you is, are you willing to close your eyes today as it drives you? Are you willing to sit in the back seat as it drives you? Are you?
So on certain routes, I'm willing to sit in the back seat. Okay.
What are those
But
routes? Is it like in your backyard?
no, it's so so like I said, apart from like that one unprotected left turn, okay, which is actually it's a really poor turn. It's very poorly designed, and they need a red light there
How
really.
about highway? We're just in the back seat on the highway.
No, because the highway you're going for like 100 miles,
I
and there's
rest
a lot of
my case.
uncertainty.
I rest my case.
But okay, but Yaman, they could do that. So let's just say in a market, if my scenario was in that geofence market, right? All they have to do is make the robotaxi not even go through there, reroute it every time. So it's a little inconvenient of one
Right,
block
and that's
around or
exactly that's
something.
that's exactly what Cruise at Waymo do. Okay, I mean, I think maybe not Waymo in San Francisco, but that's what Cruise did in Austin when I was testing. It was basically a glorified bus route, and all these cruisers back to back to back would travel 25 miles an hour around the same loop, and they called this autonomous driving. Okay, and that is not ready for mass adoption. If you're avoiding intersections, which you're going to have to do at a very conservative level, so you're going to end up avoiding a lot of intersections if you go around that way, nobody's going to use it. And they're going to make another mockery of this thing. So um, I think the closest you can get to FSD unsupervised right now is something like we're going to do level 3, basically, stop doing, eye tracking on the highway, which is what a lot of these other automakers are doing with their own systems, right? Mercedes is increasing the speed limit that their system, hands off, eyes off system on the highway. They recently did that. And I think GM is going to do the same. and a couple other automakers are doing the same exact thing. On the highway, at these pre-mapped highways, you're going to, under certain conditions, you're going to be able to do something else. But be ready to take over if necessary. And Tesla's going to do that. They're going to call it FSD unsupervised. You'll see.
I agree, but I don't think that drives the needle financially at all
No, it
because
doesn't. You would win the coffee bet even if they do that. I'll give you the coffee bet even if they do that because I don't think they're going to do that either this year.
I don't think they do that. But I think, like I said, they're going to put up something in a very limited market just to showcase that they have done it, and it's part of their strategy. I mean, if they're betting everything on robotaxi, which is clear right now, right? They have to move forward with the strategy or at least show that they're moving forward. And part of that process is going into small markets and getting approvals and then demonstrating the technology.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I do not know. But I think the AI hype is over. I think this is the end of the AI hype. I'm looking at Nvidia today. This morning, Meta announced, um, that they're going to increase their capex for next year, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't think that announcement is going to materialize because I think the stock market is going to tell Zuckerberg once again that he is ahead of his skis, just like the stock market is telling Microsoft the same exact thing. And Meta is going to end up pivoting again. Um, and stock market is selling. I think it's starting to kind of wake up to this AI hype on Nvidia as we're seeing on Nvidia now.
Yeah, I thought that news was big and it didn't do anything. Nvidia's down today. And this is on the backdrop of receiving the very big hype of Stargate and everything else.
Exactly.
So I think people
Exactly.
are catching on to the reality of this. And I think, what will be a big tell is going to be earnings projections also for 2025. So as we come into a lot of these earnings announcements, we'll see how many of these companies are able to guide up and what benefit of AI are they able to show, because now they've got a decent amount of AI use for the last year under their belt.
Yeah. I mean, I think if Nvidia breaks through 120, that's when the music stops. Nvidia has benefited greatly from continued momentum in the last 2 years. Um, People have fooled themselves into using their PE ratio as justification. Oh, look at their PE ratio. It's so reasonable compared to Tesla. And they just can't see ahead of that, I think. But we'll see. I think if Nvidia breaks through 120, the momentum turns negative, and that's the end of the game.
I think for a lot of investors in Nvidia, people look at the 1 year chart. Maybe you look at the 5 year chart. You got to go back a little bit and really look at like the 10 year and 15 year chart on this. They've had their growth cycle and then some. And a
You don't have to
lot of
go.
that
You don't have to go
stuff
that
has been
far.
priced
Just
in.
just look at 2022.
Right.
I mean, before this AI hype hit, they weren't making any money. They were zero at the bottom line. They just locked into this AI hype a couple of years before everybody else because of the GPUs. Turns out matrix multiplication works better on GPUs, but everybody else is catching up now and just creating and producing scaling ASICs, custom chips takes 4 years. So it's right on time. Nvidia is going to start seeing a dramatic revenue growth slowdown here. And yeah, it's amazing that back-to-back days of these major news from Stargate to today's Meta announcement, and the stock is down, which is amazing. I think there's a big down day coming for Nvidia. Like we're talking like 10, 20% down kind of day in the near term here. The stock is very weak. All right. Well, I'm glad we have this FSD unsupervised bet now, ACDC. I would never think in a million years that you would be more optimistic on FSD than me. What a turn! How the tables turn.
I'm optimistic on the hype. and and I think so. And you know what would be most ironic would be that the first geofence market is Austin, Texas, and maybe I fly down there and actually have you buy me my coffee in the
Yeah,
robotaxi.
right, right. Who knows? Or maybe I'll come to Chicago. Who knows? But look at this, statement that I pinned at the top. This is from Elon's lawyers at the end of in September of 2024. Okay. Um, because Phil Dwan said, "Prepare to be shocked" in a reply to James Wang. Let me just read this for everybody. Okay. James Wang said, "Tesla FSD is not remotely close to Waymo right now." He said this yesterday. Okay. And James Wang, this guy I think was praised by Elon. Was the last year or the year before? Um, so he's not like nobody. He previously worked at Nvidia, Ark Invests, and now he's working for Cerebras as director of product marketing. James Wang says Tesla FSD is not remotely close to Waymo right now. It's behind at least 100 times. And by the way, he is a Tesla investor. Okay, long Tesla. All right. Um, he's a long Tesla, knowledgeable about the topic to some extent. He can still be wrong. Okay, I don't believe in this idea of experts and stuff. He can still be wrong. We can all be wrong. All right, but he says in his thread, yes, it's getting better, but scaling laws cannot do its magic with fixed amount of compute, which is exactly what I've been saying too, and which is what Machine has said a few months ago, as well as Comma AI founder said as well, along the same lines. This is based on using both regularly, James Wang says. This is my experience in San Francisco Bay. I have to make daily interventions on the Model 3, mostly from wrong lane selection. Waymo, you can basically go to sleep. Tesla does feel generally safe in terms of understanding the environment and avoiding collision. It's true, Tesla is way ahead in geographical coverage, but 99% of FSD on 100% of roads is of limited value. I would be shocked and delighted if it managed to get to Waymo level safety without hardware changes. And he says, I'm long Tesla. And Phil Dewan, who works at Tesla, Phil Dewan works at Tesla, says, prepare to be shocked, which is obviously just, there's not much meat to that statement. It's just kind of. So every time I see a management statement now, I just remember what I pinned at the top. It's a section from Elon's legal defense team who said, this is in response to FSD claim, by the way. Corporate puffery. Defendants next argue that several timeline and safety statements are non-actionable statements of corporate puffery and optimism. In the Ninth Circuit, vague, generalized assertions of corporate optimism or statements of mere puffering are not actionable material misrepresentations under federal securities laws because no reasonable investor would rely on such investments. So that means if you believe Elon's statements, you are not a reasonable investor, according to Elon's own defense team. So that's, I'm going to frame this, put it on in front of my head at all times when I'm listening to corporate managers from now on. Whenever I hear a corporate manager say something, I'm going to have this, I'm going to carry around this framed statement along with me everywhere. And I pull it out. I'm going to pull it out, put it on the desk as the CEO talks from now on. Speak to this frame, Mr. CEO, I'm going to say. What a joke.
Well, but that's been the history. I mean, that's been the consensus usually. Corporate earnings calls and everything has always been treated as corporate puffery. It's just that Elon has such that stature and that following that people seem to take everything at face value. And I personally don't think that he lies about a lot of these things, but it's just in his
No, it's not a
nature.
lie. It's not a lie. It's a corporate puffery. It's not a lie. I never said it's a lie. They didn't say it's a lie. I'm just saying it's mere puffing. It's puffing. Nobody says it's a lie. Come on.
Well, in Elon's defense, I don't think it's quite puffery as much as it is his enthusiasm. He's a scientist. He sees as
Mm.
nothing is impossible, but he confuses the reality or the timeline a little bit along with it, which I don't think he even knows at times. So that's why sometimes I think those statements end up being far fetched.
I don't know. All I heard is I'm not a reasonable investor. That's all I heard when I read that. Actually, somebody just accepted my bet, Marty T. So I'm gonna type that up while Steven talks. Steven, go ahead.
Thank you. My ACDC. All right, I'm so just with Elon and his timelines. I mean, some of them are very specific. He gives, some of them are down to like weeks and months. So if what you said were true, like why does he tell us like 2 weeks or Q1 20 of next quarter? You know what I'm saying? They're very specific timelines, and that's why I don't think what he says would constitute as mere puffing. I mean, he is giving he's giving the immediate future of the company during these calls, and they're never accurate.
I agree with that. The 2 weeks is pretty infamous, but at this point of time, I don't think the hype of a stock is what he's really looking at. I mean, he has so much more money tied up now, or actually to be made in something like SpaceX than he does in Tesla. Frankly, I'm of the opinion that I think Tesla is already has been put on the back burner, and I think it will be. I don't think I think he knows there isn't much he can do here. Like Yaman was saying, a lot of it depends on macro uh, stuff, and then just things that are out of his control. So he's more concentrating, apart from politics, of course. I think he's concentrating more on SpaceX, which I think has a lot of benefits to come from defense contracts and such.
Oh yeah, but it sucks, man. It sucks for people like there's this one guy Matt from Canada who was always talking about his FSD. It sucks for the people that actually like the product and like the company, and he's just like, I'm sorry, but the way I see it, he's just pooping on them, and and they're going to get left with the bill, and he's going to move on to his next venture because Tesla has already soaked up all the government money it can, and now that they're going opposite of electric, he's going to go to SpaceX where he could get more government money. It sucks for the consumer, and the consumer is the one to get screwed over in this situation.
I agree with you 100%. And that's one thing that I've always said, that don't fall in love with a company just because you love the product, and don't fall into the hype. But this is also the same people they've chosen to be in the bubble. They've chosen to have 100% of their investments in one company, and that bias then kind of leads them to want to believe everything that Elon tells them. Elon is more diversified than these people themselves are, with 100% in everything in Tesla stock.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
I agree with you, AC. I was just not going to touch it. I don't want to turn too bearish up here. So, but I agree with you, man.
Don't worry. We got enough bears with me on board. Don't worry. You can be a bull. You can be a bear. Anything you want. It's a mixed crowd. ACDC, I don't think is invested in the company at this time, neither short nor long. Right, ACDC? But he's getting more bullish on FSD, sounds like.
Bullish on FSD, bearish on the stock valuation. Yes.
I mean, honestly, I did not expect FSD 13 to not be on any Hardware 3 cars at this point. That makes me even more bearish on FSD. So I made a prediction back in September, I think, that FSD 13, despite Ashok's statements, which is also again, works for Tesla. He's a manager. He's a Tesla employee. Okay, so everything he says needs to be taken with a grain of salt. I'm sure he means well. I'm sure he's not lying, but corporate puffery. So um, he said that 13 is going to start rolling out or something in Q3. I think it was the Tesla AI tweet. Obviously, didn't happen. And then started rolling out to some friends and family accounts. And we got all the positive videos about how they never make a mistake and everything is so rosy and good and great. And then I said, it's going to. I said October 1st. It's not going to be on majority of Teslas until spring. And today, still, it's like a few percent of the cars and all hardware 4 cars. None of the hardware 3 cars at FSD 13, which is amazing. I did not expect that. I thought the hardware 3 cars would start getting FSD 13 by now. But all they did was created basically something like a 01 Mini, a mini version, which means it has most of the performance, but it doesn't have everything because it's not big enough. Because hardware 3 computers can't fit the full FSD 13 model. And questionable if it's ever going to happen. Which means hardware 4 will fall behind too. I thought that maybe the older hardware would follow up more quickly. But if it's not happening by now, it's been several months now, FSD 13 has been out. And it doesn't sound like they have any plans to send FSD 13 to hardware 3 cars. If it's not happening, then it's probably more difficult than I thought to make it happen. Which means if that applies, if nothing changes on that front, then you're going to have a problem sending FSD 14, 15, or 16 to hardware 4 cars in the future. I'm guessing hardware 5 is going to come in 2027. And that's when hardware 4 vehicles will stop getting even bigger and better models of FSD in 2028 plus. And I would also be like, part of me thinks ACDC, I don't know if I would make this a coffee bet, but part of me thinks that no hardware 4 car will ever get FSD unsupervised.
I agree with that. I'm not
Really?
counting on my. Yes, I
How
do.
can you agree with that? You just said FSD unsupervised is going to come this year.
Correct. In a geofenced area on a robotaxi. We don't even know what hardware the robotaxi is.
So you think they're going to stop producing robotaxis this year?
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, how many do they need? They can start with 50, 100, a couple hundred.
Mm-hmm.
Limited market. That's it. That's all they need just to get something started.
Right. I see what you mean.
Don't they
Okay.
have 50 already ACDC from the demo that they did, or at least like 25?
Exactly. That's why I don't think the cost of it is going to be that crazy. I think they're going to come up with the money just to get it rolling. They have to keep this going. I mean, if they don't have robo taxis on an unsupervised level this year, the whole narrative of robo taxis kind of falls apart.
So here's the problem, though, sir. I mean, and at least from my perspective, and tell me where I'm wrong. When Waymo originally started their services in San Francisco, I forget, I think it was San Francisco. Yaman would know, but anyway, when they did that, the permit process that they had took approximately 9 months from the time that they submitted their package to the time it got approved. So now, using that, I mean, even if they get approved, even if they submit the package today, you're looking at 6 months minimum, unless there's no regulations to require that package be submitted anymore.
Correct. But that was also, I think, in California versus this will be in Texas where anything goes and the red carpet is out there for Elon. So I think they can get through that.
As a resident of Texas, that's pretty scary. So
Teslas with hardware 4 will not get FSD unsupervised. Will not be. I'm trying to devise another coffee bet. I'm short on coffee. Robotaxi will.
Can I just send you like a Costco pack of 72 Starbucks Keurigs?
Man, Costco is so underrated. It's crazy. I think that's the coffee I'm drinking these days, actually. Costco is so underrated, man. I've been going more often lately, and wow, they have great deals.
Hey, Yaman, I got a question for you, but it's not Tesla related. It's
Hmm.
market related.
Hmm.
So how come when Trump is up there, right, getting rid of all these we're no longer part of the WHO and the CDC is putting a stop on them for now. How come all these pharmaceutical companies are not crashing? Like if the CDC is not out there telling us we need these pills, how come I don't see a demand for the companies if there's no more, real health department telling us we need to take the pills and shit stuff. Sorry.
Wait, sorry, I don't understand the question. What's the question?
So President Trump, right, recently signing a bunch of new executive orders. One of them is he's putting a stop on how the CDC disseminates information to the public. So in case there are illnesses going around, we may or may not find out now. Um, I'm just wondering how come like a company like Moderna, right, or the big pharmaceutical companies, how come their stocks are not diving right now? Because if the American public isn't being told to take medicine and do this by the government, then why are they going to continue to buy these pills and stuff? Isn't there going to
Oh,
be a limited demand for these, pharmaceutical company, pills
well,
and all
looks like Moderna is down 2% today, and in the last year, they're down from May about 80%. So, and from the peak, I think they're down like 90 something. So maybe, some of this was expected already. Um, and what was the other stock that you mentioned?
Well, I would use Moderna as an example, sir,
Right.
but I mean, pretty much any of them. I'm wondering, like, how come there's no direct correlation between what the president is doing at the time and stocks? Is it just not that black and white?
Yeah, it's not that black and white. But ACDC, what do you think?
So I think people are taking that as like, oh, RFK Jr. is just coming out and just with a wrecking ball to the full pharmaceutical and healthcare sector. And that's really not the case. There was a lot of overreach in many ways. There was a lot of what do you call it? The helping of, I mean, promoting certain companies benefiting, such as Moderna, such as Pfizer, from regulations that were not really regulations, but health guidelines that were passed, such as the vaccines and stuff, right? But that doesn't go as a broad blanket over the whole healthcare industries. There's still a lot of good drugs that come out from all sorts of different companies that are helping people on a daily basis. So those will still continue. They're not stopping any of that. If you look at watch any TV show, pharmaceutical ads are still the predominant ads that you see everywhere. So I think the industry is going to continue to do well. In fact, the mRNA technology, the basis of the technology is actually being used at the back end to develop a lot of other drugs, and which wouldn't have been able to come to the market for many, many years. So I think that's going to do well. And in terms of like Moderna itself, Moderna actually just got a $540 million funding, I think, to help develop the bird flu vaccine. It was a parting gift from Joe Biden on his way out. So I think that's holding them up a little bit. And the second one, Pfizer. If you look at Pfizer's valuation is really low. They have a big catalog of other drugs that they rely on, and they've also got some pipeline that's still continually developing or so. So I don't think you can just make that as a blanket statement just over on the entire pharmaceutical sector.
Is that why Moderna went up like 20% though this week?
I didn't catch it.
It's
If it did it spike on that news? It could have been
Oh yeah, I don't know
it could have
why
been
it
on
did.
that
That's what I was
news.
trying to figure out, but it spiked since I brought up to me Yaman like 2 weeks ago, it went down like another 30%. And then after that, it started to go up for some reason. I haven't figured it out, but yeah, that's
I mean,
probably why.
I wouldn't. It's really difficult to gauge why a short-term move is happening, because there's really, like, for most of these mega cap companies, especially, there's not one investor that's deciding one way or the other. Okay. There are various types of investors in various locations with various time frames, and they all have different priorities, reasons for why they're bullish or bearish, etc. So I wouldn't try to like. That's what real CNBC headlines try to do, because there's this, you know, as humans, we all have, we hate cognitive dissonance. We want it makes us feel safer when we know the reason for why something's happened, and we're just not, um, you know, comfortable with not understanding something. So we try to look for answers when we don't understand something, which means going on Google and typing in why is Moderna stuck up 20%, and that's literally the headline that a lot of these, CNBC or Seeking Alpha or a bunch of other websites use to start their articles. Why is Moderna stock down 20%, up 20%, whatever? So that they get you to click and read the article and they get their ad revenue that way. But they don't know the answer, you know. So it's like I wouldn't dwell on this too much. All right, Nvidia stock is down 3%. Um, to 142 handle now. Tesla stock is also in the negative. Palantir is up. I'm adding to my Palantir short position. And I also increased my Carvana short position, I think yesterday or the day before. And so, interesting, man. This Carvana, hell of a stock, man. It's fascinating,
That
fascinating company, fascinating
that's
stock.
absolutely insane.
Yeah. Um, ACDC, any thoughts on Palantir? It's also coming off the heat from this morning.
More so on not really Palantir. I think it's just one of those that are involved in the AI hype and now with the government spending hype. So it could run on that hype for a little bit, but Carvana, I'm shocked that it rebounding back, and I don't know, maybe Carvana is the stock that actually shut down Hindenburg, but I thought they would have stayed for the party. But I'm shocked that it's coming. It's rebounded completely from that report almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And Texas Instruments down more than 7% today. That's interesting. Any news on that front? Let's see. Texas Instruments today. Webcast Capital Management Review. Texas Instruments gives dour Q1 profit forecast. Shares fall. Texas Instruments is one of the biggest chip making companies in the semiconductor companies. Nvidia is number one, market cap wise. Broadcom is number two. AMD is number three. And I believe next is Texas Instruments or Qualcomm. So one of the top five companies is Texas Instruments. So let's read this article from Reuters real quick. Okay. Texas, it's said that the consumer side of semiconductors is much weaker than the data center side. So let's keep that in mind while reading this article. Texas Instruments forecasts first quarter profit below analyst estimates on Thursday, as the analog chip maker grapples with an inventory buildup in its key automotive and industrial markets. Shares of the over 90-year-old company fell about 4% in extended trading after Texas Instruments also forecast first quarter revenue largely in line with estimates, disappointing investors waiting for a rebound in the analog chip market. The automotive market has struggled to clear existing chip inventory in the face of tepid end market demand, hurting orders for TI's chips amid a prolonged analog slump stemming from stockpiling during the pandemic. This is mirrored in the industrial market, which utilizes chips for tasks such as automating factories. A real recovery in analog market growth is still not happening, said Stifel analyst. Fourth quarter revenue from the industrial and automotive markets was down by single-digit percentage points sequentially. The China automotive market, which has been a bright spot for TI, could not buoy the company past wider weakness. The market in China did grow, but not enough to offset the declines in Europe, the US, and Japan, CEO said in a post-earnings call. While revenue in the analog segment grew 2% in the fourth quarter, ending 8 consecutive quarters of declines, the industrial and automotive markets, which make up a majority of the revenue, have still not seen the bottom, the CEO said. Wow. Additionally, TI hasn't been notified about any investigations by China's Commerce Ministry into the company, CEO said in response to analyst question about Beijing launching an investigation into US government subsidies to its semiconductor sector over alleged harm caused to Chinese mature node chip makers. The company forecasts earnings in the range of 94 cents to 1.116 per share for the first quarter, compared to analyst average estimates of 1.17. Wow. So even the higher end of the range is below the average estimate. Elevated inventory levels across these markets drove TI to reduce factory loadings, the quantity of products being manufactured, spreading fixed costs out over lesser output. The high inventory levels will lead to factory underutilization and will lead to some near-term gross margin impact. Inventory at the end of the fourth quarter was $4.5 billion, up $231 million from the previous quarter. Okay. Interesting. Any thoughts on that, ACDC? Texas Instruments, yet another company that is indicating global growth slowdown.
Yeah, I just looked at it. It's a company that I've bought in the past, haven't looked at much. So they missed on their earnings and they pretty much guided down on it for their predictions also. And yeah, I mean that's kind of like the truth of the entire global economy, really. And it's what you are hearing from the consumer side also. If you looked at the consumer sentiment numbers this morning, we came down
I did.
lower on that.
And if you
And
remember, so those consumer sentiment numbers, so this was the final read. A couple of weeks ago, we got the preliminary read for January, and that was the first January reading. And we talked about it in here because they came in so much lower than expected. And the final figure was lower significantly than the preliminary figure. So things are getting worse on the consumer front as of January for sure. Okay, please continue.
right, and so was the consumer inflation expectations too. So this is really, if you look at just the whole macro picture, and that plays into literally everything, but for some reason people think that it doesn't play into AI. And I think it has to eventually play into AIs. Kind of like going back to what we started the space with Meta's capex commitment of 65 billion dollars for this year. Well, that's all great, but if the stock comes down on any macro event, just a market pullback or something, those commitments get pulled back really, really quick too. So it just seems to me that people are not reading all these leaves, you know, on the side, and just want to look at AI as like one immune sector that is not going to be affected. And it brings back memories of 2000 in the dot com, where they said, no, this is the technology sector. It doesn't get affected. B2B, E2E, C2C. It's this time is different. And I don't think this time is any different.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I sold another coffee bet. So let me type this in. But I agree with everything you said. And next, let's talk about, so consumer side is weaker. The AI side, people think that it won't weaken. They show a sport Stargate project announcement. They show a sport Meta's announcement from this morning, and maybe OpenAI's growth as well. But do you think, ACDC, that there is a transition mechanism at all from the consumer side to the data center side in terms of slowing down?
Yeah, so I've been trying to analyze that. I was just thinking about it this morning itself. I just think that that cycle comes a little bit later, so you could possibly see that. Okay, the only thing I think pulls back some of these AI stocks, and I'm gonna and put an Nvidia within it, is if you see a macro or like just the general market on a broad level pullback. Because right now we're in the cycle where these companies and the hyperscalers are building it for they will come. And to me, the consumer has already not gravitated towards anything on a large scale. that they have to offer. And in a weakening economy and a weakening consumer, I can't see that coming. So it'll catch up to them, but there could be a little bit of a time frame here, 6 to 9 months, 6 to 12 months, boosted with these additional spendings, news at least, if not actual spendings, that could carry it on for some time. But I don't see that it can continue much longer. You could still have a 6 month to 9 month market of good times still, though.
Okay. Steven?
ACDC, what do you do for work? Are you in
No,
finance or
it's
you just doing this hobby?
he's a money manager for third parties, but that's really all you got to know, I think. All
Okay,
right.
sorry. No, I was just wondering. He's
Okay.
pretty knowledgeable guy.
Yeah.
Someone might say he's a little bit more knowledgeable than you, Yaman. I don't know.
Yeah, he's more
I'm
experienced for
I'm
sure. There's no
I
question.
I am not more knowledgeable than Yaman. That's why I respect Yaman and his knowledge a lot. Yaman can break down financial numbers like I cannot. I
That's all right.
don't.
We don't have to talk. We don't want to talk about the storm, but I'm really interested in this transition from consumer weakness to the AI data center weakness, and I think there is a mechanism that connects the two. I don't think the two are independent of each other completely. I'm not sure how strong that linkage is. I guess we're about to find out. But I think what's going to happen is the following. I think that as the consumer side of things weaken, we're going to start seeing the stock market decrease. And along with it, it will take down some of these Max 7 companies. And as the stock prices decline, Max 7 companies will pull back on spending on CapEx. That's primarily why I think Meta's announcement from today is just not going to happen. I would actually be willing to bet that too with somebody that I don't think Meta's CapEx this year will exceed $60 billion. And by the way, only about 10-15% of that goes to NVIDIA anyway. So maybe I should put that on a coffee bet too. But I think that's the linkage between those two segments. What do you think, ACDC?
I agree. So this morning when I was watching that, it made me kind of reminisce on the whole metaverse. Do you remember the metaverse that
I do,
Zuckerberg
yes,
said
exactly, exactly.
everybody's going to buy a virtual land and this is going to be great. This is where we're going to pretty much be living in. And celebrities actually did, they bought the actual prime property in metaverse and stuff, but it's gone, right? So I think they're putting a lot of, I mean, just basically putting out news there to go along with it. But when I personally look at it, like I'm most of my time is spent on X in terms of my social media usage, but I also have an Instagram, and I was trying to see where is the application of Meta in terms of AI. And what they have done is that they do have like this Meta AI up on top. So that's your search bar when you want to search for an account, a person, a topic. It's all through Meta AI. I don't use it ever for anything. And if I do want to have some sort of a conversation, I've got Grok, I've got Gemini. I don't even think of Meta. Now, maybe I'm, a low end user for Instagram, and that's why I'm not thinking about it. But I can't imagine that market using it for any purpose. And even if you have considerable usage of it, what does Meta derive from it? They've got a good, successful advertising um, program, which basically is the revenue generating arm for their entire platform, right? So does it drive up more ads? Does it drive up more users? Does it drive up anything else? I just don't think it does. So I don't know where this spending is going when you don't have an end product to deliver, basically.
Yeah, my understanding is that Meta, it has been, I mean, it's not the leading. They've been one of the top three AI companies, really. So they've actually started to make money on their investments. But
How do they make money on their AI investments? How would you say they've been able to translate it into revenue?
um, give me 1 second. I'm just typing this up real quick. Meta 2025 capex less than 60 billion. Coffee bet. Mark Zuckerberg today said we're planning to invest 60 to 65 billion dollars in capex this year, while also growing our AI team significantly, and we have the capital to continue investing in the years ahead. And I tagged him on too. So maybe how funny would it be if Zuckerberg took the coffee bet, right? That would be pretty hilarious. Give me 1 second. Um, all right, I'm gonna pin this here if somebody wants to take the coffee bet. Okay. And usually first come first serve, but if Zuckerberg jumps on it after somebody takes it, then I'll make an exception probably. Okay. How does Meta use AI? I think they use. I mean, obviously they rely on algorithms to push content, to identify harmful content, and yeah, I'm sure in many other ways they use AI. So I think Meta has been able to improve those algorithms, their operations, business operations. So cutting costs for them, I think, is the primary way they make money on AI. Um, I think that there will. I think that they will be able to. Like, I think Meta has an advantage. Zuckerberg is very bright, very obviously super intelligent, and also very aggressive. He's got the he's a founder with total control. I mean, not I don't know if it's total control, but he controls the company very fast, so he can move fast. And I think they have that advantage. And but they also appeal to billions of people around the world on multiple fronts. So by open sourcing Llama, they've also been able to kind of undercut their competitors' growth as well, or profitability and growth. So um, yeah, my understanding is that if you ask me one company, is there one company who's made money, like so on the software front, who's made money on AI, I would probably select Meta. And I actually came very close to investing a couple of years ago when their stock dropped so much, but I didn't. I was going to sell some Tesla and buy some Meta, but didn't do that. I didn't pull the trigger.
I think one of the sole reasons why they make money is because they do not release their advertising metrics. They don't let third party metrics, operate on the platform for the advertisers. Because I don't know, I would love to talk to somebody who actually uses maybe Instagram or one of their platforms a little bit more. Does anybody actually click on ads? Does
Yeah.
anybody, you know,
Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people do. I mean, so Meta, formerly Facebook, drives the vast majority of its, according to ChatGPT, revenue through advertising, and AI is central to nearly every step of that process. While Meta does not typically sell AI directly, for example, via licensing or standalone AI products, it has embedded AI across its platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp, and others to improve user experience, optimize advertising, and ultimately drive profits. One, targeted advertising. I can dig deeper into all of these. One, targeted advertising. Two, content recommendation, user engagement. Three, moderation and policy enforcement, which is exactly what I said. Four, AI research and open source contributions. Five, potential future monetization of AI tools, etc. Yeah, it's basically what I said.
so yeah, man, one of the biggest advertising drivers is these tracking cookies and everything. And these are from all sorts of places. It's like when you talk about something on the phone, it shows up on your feed, or you click on an ad or you search on something, and next thing you know, it's showing up everywhere. This was there already before AI was already there. It came about. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't understand how AI drives revenue that much more. Is the advertiser paying them more money because now that they are using AI algorithms? And even if the advertiser is paying them more money, the advertiser at the end of the day is dependent on the consumer, and with the consumer softening now, it doesn't matter AI or not, they have to control and rein back their advertising budget too.
Yes, can you repeat the last sentence, please?
I was going to say, with our macro view of the consumer softening, no matter what business you're in, you're going to rein in your advertising budgets, whether it's dependent on AI or benefiting from AI or not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, actually, advertising is one of the first things that gets curtailed in an economic recession. So I totally agree with you. It's just that my understanding is that Facebook um, has been able to kind of find other ways to improve targeted advertising after Apple tried to, make it difficult for them. And if you remember when Apple took that action, ask app not to track, um, that Facebook has been able to find other ways to basically get that information. And as far as I understand, don't hold me to it, okay? But as far as I understand, they did that by using AI. So, like for example, if for example I was looking at what you search for on Google, um, what you search for on Google on Safari on your iPhone, and then let's say you search for a Tesla, and then on my Facebook page, on your Facebook homepage, I start showing you ads for a Tesla. Bad example. Ads for a Ford. Okay. Um, but then Apple says, okay, you can't do that anymore. I'm not going to show you, Zuckerberg, what ACDC searched for on Safari. Then what I can do, or maybe what they did, this is totally guess, okay? But using AI and whatever information I have on you, ACDC, that I can predict highly confident that you search for a Ford on Safari on Sunday at 9 a.m. Then I can still show you the ad. So now, kind of synthetically, I'm predicting what you're going to do next, as opposed to observing what you did. So I mean, I think AI can play a role there, right? Maybe that's what they're doing. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt this company, like he's a very impressive dude. Zuckerberg is a very impressive dude. Um, when just so many back to back to back decisions that are very impressive too. Like when he bought Instagram, including me, I think it was like $1 billion or more. He paid for it. I was like, what is Instagram? When he bought WhatsApp, today used by billions of people around the world for super cheap. Um, when he created Instagram stories, um, which I was like, well, it's going to have a tough time, getting in front of Snapchat. And he basically killed the profitability of Snapchat or any hope of profitability, and is now even more popular than the pictures that people. I mean, a lot of people don't post pictures anymore; they just use stories. Um, so, like, how he's able to kind of like change the business so quickly in the right direction every single time after time is really impressive. When Elon bought Twitter, how he created threads and was able to leverage his many platforms and basically attract the people who hated every single cell in Zuckerberg's body with every single cell of their in their own body. And he attracted those people just because they now hate Elon, and turned threads into a platform with hundreds of millions of people, if not more than a billion people at this point. Is really amazing. You know, I don't know if it's ever going to be a major profit or generated for Meta. I don't think so, but it cut into exit growth. That's for sure.
I
So
agree. And in fact, I think it was just today that they announced they're going to start advertising on Threads. So
mm,
they kind of just got the users and got people to start using it as their predominant platform, and now they'll throw the ads on it. And actually, WhatsApp, I use that quite a bit. Is one thing that they haven't even leveraged it. You don't see any ads on WhatsApp yet, but that's a stream of income that they can turn on for their ad revenue too. Huge
yeah,
stream of income.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff happening on AI right now. Threads, how many people use it? I don't know. According to Zuckerberg, Threads passed 100 million registered users in under a week. But I don't have 2025 data here. Let's ask ChatGPT 4o. How many people use Threads? As of January 2025, surpassed 300 million monthly active users. So it's still in the hundreds of millions range. Growth reflects a significant increase from the 275 million reported in November 2024. So in just 2 months, it grew about 10%.
And WhatsApp has almost 3 billion users worldwide.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's so crazy. It's so crazy how fast things are moving on a lot of different fronts. Did you see this post from teamblind.com? Meta Gen AI organization in panic mode. It started with DeepSeek V3, which rendered the Llama 4 already behind in benchmarks. Adding insult to injury was the unknown Chinese company with 5.5 million training budget. Engineers are moving frantically to dissect DeepSeek and copy anything and everything we can from it. I'm not even exaggerating. Management is worried about justifying the massive cost of Gen AI org. How would they face the leadership when every single leader of Gen AI organization is making more than what it costs to train DeepSeek version 3 entirely? And we have dozens of such leaders. DeepSeek R1 made things even scarier. I can't reveal confidential info, but it'll soon be public anyways. It should have been an engineering focused small organization, but since a bunch of people wanted to join, the impact grab and artificially inflate hiring in the org, everyone loses. Yeah, amazing. Really incredible. And the day after, this was yesterday. It was published yesterday on X, and the day before on teamblind.com. And today Zuckerberg came out with an announcement that they're going to invest, tens of billions of dollars and everything. Anyway, so I posted a coffee bet on Zuckerberg at the top of our screens. Mark Zuckerberg today said we're planning to invest 60 to 65 billion dollars in capex this year, while also growing our AI team significantly. And my coffee bet is that it's not going to be more than 60 billion. So first come, first serve. If you want to take the bet, if you want to agree with Zuckerberg, you can reply to the tweet at the top, and we can have a coffee bet. Highly recommend. Coffee bet's a lot of fun, especially when you win.
Yeah, man, just to be clear on one thing, DeepSeek, one of their reasons for doing it in a more efficient manner is because they're able to train the models
Oh, dude, hold
still
on, hold
using
on, hold on.
H100s.
Sorry, hold on 1 second. So look at this announcement. Sorry to interrupt you, but this is pretty big announcement. Um, AMD announces integration of DeepSeek version 3 model on Instinct MI300 GPUs, MI300X GPUs. This is the primary competitor for NVIDIA's GPUs. So this announcement came just a few hours ago. Wow. Wow. That's incredible. All right. Sorry. Would you please repeat your question on DeepSeek and AACDC? I think you were talking about H100s.
Yeah, I think you may have almost made my question irrelevant with that announcement, but the whole premise of DeepSeek is basically that they're able to use H100s itself and get to all these impressive models, correct, in a very cost efficient manner.
Exactly. I mean, this has been my primary thesis on NVIDIA short, that NVIDIA's GPUs do not necessarily lead to, like using NVIDIA's GPUs do not necessarily lead to a sustainable competitive advantage. And DeepSeek is proof of that. And that's why Microsoft is pulling back on growing its data centers, which means in the upcoming NVIDIA earnings call, I bet you we're going to have a disappointing earnings growth forecast. Earnings growth and revenue growth forecast. AMD announced about an hour ago at 1:02 p.m. Eastern. Excited to share that AMD has integrated the new DeepSeek version 3 model on Instinct MI300X GPUs designed for peak performance with SG-Lang. DeepSeek V3 is optimized for AI inferencing. Special thanks to the DeepSeek and SG-Lang teams for their close collaboration. This is incredible. This is incredible. How is NVIDIA not down 50% right now?
Well, the people who are using NVIDIA, though, they're still caught up in the NVIDIA architecture, and with their billions of investments already in place, they're kind of stuck. They have to still stay in that lane, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I wish Wes was here right now because he's an NVIDIA investor and he was a big proponent of NVIDIA over the last few months as I've been kind of like banging the table on this company. But Wes obviously worked at Tesla, SpaceX, Google. He worked specifically as product manager, I believe, on the autopilots and I think he worked very closely with as a product manager as well on Google's TPUs. So he obviously knows a million times more than I do on this topic. But I would be so curious. We know who else is a big NVIDIA investor is Gavin Baker. So let's see if he has anything to say on this AMD news. But he's usually tweets like once a day or so, or once every other day. So I doubt that he's even seen this AMD news just yet. Yeah, his last tweet is yesterday. So we don't know just yet. His last tweet is about the Stargate. Yeah, I would be really curious to see what he says about DeepSeek. About AMD's announcement.
Do you think, in your opinion, then this opens up the hyperscaling market to a lot of smaller players to come in at a much cheaper cost, right?
So, do I think will smaller players replace demand from hyperscalers? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know, but
Then
that's Wes's argument, right?
I got, yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to see where would this fit in then.
I don't know. I guess we're about to find out. Yeah, man. I wish Wes or Meta were here right now. But I actually asked him a question this morning, and I don't know if he replied to it. Let's see. Steven, go ahead.
Hey man, the one thing I'll say is that I think the AI stuff is way overhyped for the chips and all that stuff because I mean right now someone could pull down a model identical to ChatGPT, train it themselves, and run it on their local CPU, on like their local server for free. I mean, it's open source, so I don't see that. That's one of the reasons why I don't see the AI demand. I mean, people are already spinning up their own models, doing what they want with it. That's just me, though. That's the only thing I want to add.
Yeah. All right.
Iman, you pay for ChatGPT
Yeah.
4.0?
Yeah. I pay for ChatGPT and I pay for Google Gemini. And
And
4.0 is free for everyone. But I
okay,
think when you pay, you get unlimited 4.0. I mean 4.0, and then you also get O1. O1 Mini is basically unlimited. Um, O1, the bigger model, is there are limits, but I only run into it every now and then. It's not like if I'm mindful of it. And by the way, like 4.0 is usually better anyway than O1. I think O1 is better in very specific ways, but 4.0 can search the internet and O1 doesn't. So like I was talking about was it Gemini or O1 I was talking about yesterday, last night. And one of the paragraphs started with, since we are still in 2024, I'm like, we're not in 2024. We're in 2025, buddy. So, it's like a lot of times it's kind of you're 99% of people are going to be just fine with something like 4.0, which is free. And ChatGPT said that they lose money in the $200 a month version, even. So they're not nowhere close to being profitable, obviously. And so if the applications are not profitable, if the most popular application of AI is not profitable, then how are they going to justify these hyperscalers continue to spend tens of billions of dollars in acquiring hardware, which Microsoft is realizing now, and they're pulling back from their shoot first, aim later approach. Clearly, Zuckerberg hasn't woken up to that just yet, but he will too, I think. But Elon woke up to this years ago. Elon never spent. I mean, Tesla could have raised tens of billions of dollars for the last couple of years to buy these GPUs, but he didn't. He chose not to do that. He instead chose to pay down debt. Um, and I think to me that tells me that he knew that FSD was just not going to get there, or maybe he was banking on some sort of algorithmic breakthrough on their side. But yeah, I don't know. Um, yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's really crazy. And then the other company that is really played really well, I think, is Apple. People think Apple is so far behind on AI, but um, a lot of these other companies paid tens of billions of dollars and got nowhere. So who's really behind? You know, so maybe Apple made the right call here too. ACDC.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I have a Samsung phone. Samsung just came out with their new lineup of S25 Galaxy phones, which is their premium line. And they've been doing AI now for almost about a year embedded into their phones. You don't even need to do it on the cloud. You can have it on the device itself. And it's there. Like I could actually have a conversation with somebody speaking a completely different language on the phone and have it translated live. I can, edit pictures, move things from here to there and stuff and everything. But honestly, if they started to charge for this, I don't know if I would pay them. I can afford to pay them, but I don't know if the utility is quite there. So, take to your point, I think that's kind of like the reason why Apple is slow on the rollout, and maybe they knew this ahead of everybody else, that there really isn't that much of a market for it.
Yeah. Okay. I think we beat the. We let's switch topics.
Oh, come on. I have one thing.
Okay,
I
go
have
ahead.
one
One more
thing.
thing. Go ahead. One more thing.
Okay, just in terms of OpenAI as a service, if you look at, or sorry, if you AI as a service, if you look at OpenAI and you look at their business clients, they have some big names, but nobody major because nobody wants to put an AI directly between the customer and themselves because unfortunately they're still highly susceptible to being easily hacked and getting around the protections that they put up in order to kind of protect the rest of the data. And that's why we're not seeing a huge adoption of it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be one of the reasons too. Thank you. All right. ACDC. We have half hour. Which one of these companies would you like to talk about? Um, Ko-Fi, Robinhood, Rivian, IonQ, Carvana, Exxon, Palantir, EOS, or GME?
Let's go with Robinhood.
Okay. Would you go short or long? If someone put a gun to your face and said, take one position right now, what position are you taking?
Short.
You would short Robinhood. Okay. And what's your reasoning?
I foresee a market pullback. Market pullbacks happen at times when nobody sees them for reasons that nobody sees, and when markets are at all-time highs. We just made all-time highs on the indices this week, and if the market was to pull back, you would see a significant decline in their volume, which is basically their revenue. So that's why I would be short.
Okay. Now, Now, same set of companies. I think these are about 2, 4, 6, 8, about a dozen companies. And I'm going to throw in MicroStrategy in there too. If you had to short one of these companies, which one would you short? So it's a slightly different question.
From the same set of companies, if I had to short one?
I can read you. I can read them to you again if you want.
Sure, quickly if you don't mind.
SoFi, Robinhood, Rivian, IonQ, Carvana, Exxon, Palantir, EOS, GameStop, and MicroStrategy.
So just off the top of my head and not knowing much about IonQ, I think I would probably short that as a slam dunk.
Right.
Because everybody else at least has some sort of a market, some sort of a standing, and could get carried on. But IonQ, I don't know. I mean, we're talking so far out with quantum computing that it is the biggest hype that it's trading on. Here it is. And if nothing else, the symbol tells you short me, I on Q.
Okay. That's pretty funny. Okay, I have a short position on that. It's pretty small, but I'm looking to increase it. I was hoping that the stock would continue to rise a little bit before I did that. But today it went up in the morning. Now it's pulled back from 10 a.m. in the morning, 11 a.m. They're down about 8% already. Yeah, it's a fast moving stock, It's a fast moving stock. Man, GameStop, despite all these memes that this guy's tweeting, just not going anywhere. It's dead. It hasn't moved at all. Down 10% in the last month. How many memes came out since then? In the last 3 months, flat. All right, so you're saying GameStop or IonQ over GameStop. Yeah, I probably agree with you here. And I think, what about Tesla? If I throw in Tesla in there, would you short it?
I wouldn't short it. I think Tesla is the most dangerous stock to short because of the max hype that it has around
Well,
itself.
that's
Okay.
one reason to short it. If it's max hype, that's like a key reason to short the stock. Too much hype.
Right. But you look at all the stuff around the hype, and like I said, like that whole unsupervised conversation that we had, all they have to do is literally just do 50 robo taxis roaming around in Austin, Texas, and that would take the stock up $100. Okay, so Tesla's the riskiest one for me.
So can you say that part again, please? Why that sentence? All it takes what?
All it takes for them is to do a 50 robotaxi launch in Austin, Texas, and that would move the stock 100 points.
I don't think so.
You don't think that would move the stock $100 if they just literally just announced that launch?
I mean, depends on where the stock is, I guess, at that point. But um, from 400 to 500, I just don't see it.
What do you think about the earnings call and any movement on stock next week? I think we're going to see a little bit downward move on the earnings call.
Um, it's hard to gauge earnings for Tesla, but I think the company is way overvalued. So if somebody asked me to take a position just for the earnings, I would take a short side. So I agree with you. Isaac Lateral just took my bet as well. Isaac was I think he's a congressman. So he took the bet that Tesla FSD unsupervised will start in 2025. And I took the wrong, no side. NVIDIA down 3.4% and drifting lower. What a turn of events. Man, how many announcements came out? Supergate or Stargate. And then Meta announced we're going to throw money at NVIDIA, basically, Zuck said. And the stock is down nearly 4% already from the morning. That's crazy. I mean, in the morning, it was actually up quite a bit. So from the high of the day to 142, 149, $7, 149, you're looking at 5% decline already from the morning. That's crazy. That's wild. I think this announcement at the top is key. AMD announces integration of DeepSeek V3 model. By the way, this is V3 model, so you know R1 is coming right, right in the back of it too. And people say R1 is a top 3 model right now, aside from Google's Google Gemini 2.0, which I've tried. It's not that 2.0 experimental advanced is not that great, honestly. But or ChatGPT o1, people say, aside for those two, R1 is free and was only trained on a few $1 million budget, which is incredible. ACDC, you were about to ask a question on R1 on DeepSeek, and you were talking about H100s, but you never got to ask that question. Can you ask that question?
My question was basically the whole concept of DeepSeek is that they are trained on H100s and still able to achieve this on a much cheaper scale, right?
Yeah, so there's some doubt around. So some people say it was trained on H800s. Some people say they had some H100s from their previous purchases or whatever. But DeepSeek itself said that they trained it on a few $1 million budget. So who knows? But at the end of the day, this came out kind of out of nowhere. I think the material facts are, it came out of nowhere, and within a few days, it's now available for everyone around the world for free on AMD's MI300X GPUs for inference. And that tells me NVIDIA GPUs, H100s, don't really have some sort of, they don't lead to some sort of a, competitive moat. So CUDA is gone. What's the value of CUDA if I don't need it to beat O1? I don't know. So things change really quickly. And I'm really surprised that NVIDIA is not down 50% today.
So, Yaman, I just posted a message on the thread for the space here. It's a message that Wes posted actually yesterday. If you don't mind just reading it quickly.
Yeah. Wes says, so this is ACDC posted this in a reply. Wes says, we're releasing humanity's last exam, a data set with 3,000 questions developed with hundreds of subject matter experts to capture the human frontier of knowledge and reasoning. State-of-the-art AIs get less than 10% accuracy and are highly overconfident. Okay, I'm going to look into this and we can talk about it later. But ACDC, did you want to say something about this?
Yeah, so it was kind of my point. And I asked Wes, I never got a reply from him because I had a conversation with Gemini myself. It was a basic conversation. I was trying to understand the power generation of windmills, how much do they generate and stuff. The initial answer that Gemini gave me was that one windmill can power 2,500 homes. And I had to question it and challenge it like 3 different times. And finally, it kept going back and like, oh, yes, you are right. Yes, thanks for correcting it. Well, in that case, let's recalculate. And the final answer was 667 homes. So this was pretty alarming to me that the best models only got up to 10% accuracy of this test. And we're kind of trusting these things as the end of it all, in terms of knowledge.
All right, thank you, ACDC. All right, we have Bradford and Meta. Bradford came up first. So Bradford, real quick, did you have something to say? or ask on Tesla or Nvidia or something else?
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal that the AMD can do the DeepSeek R1, because you can do it on a MacBook Pro. So like the AMD chip, it's tens of thousands of dollars. Uh, the crazy innovation now is like you can run this on a MacBook Pro and it runs quickly, and do it on private data without like sharing your data with anyone else. And I've done it. I have DeepSeek R1 on my home computer and on my MacBook Pro.
Okay, thank you. We just missed Meta. That's okay. Oh, there it is. Meta. Bradford says the announcement by AMD at the top here that it now has integration of DeepSeek version 3 on Instinct MI300X GPUs is not a big deal as far as NVIDIA is concerned. What do you think?
I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do. I would say the vast majority of things that people are trying to do don't require the largest model. Right? Like if you think of like most apps, most games, most IoT devices, they were working just fine with simple CNNs, simple LSTM models. So for them to be able to upgrade to a affordable chip with a affordable open source model, get reasonable results, that is a threat because I think when people were looking at the NVIDIA market cap, they were looking at the entire TAM and you have to adjust the TAM.
Yeah. All right. And now Luce is on the speaker board after telling me he called me an asshole on January 7th and said, this is the last time I'm here or interact with you. And he demanded an apology, and yet he's still back. Lucia, go ahead.
So, beside the fact that you are an asshole, but your space is too good to miss out on, right? Beside that, so my understanding of DeepSeek is the fact that it's trained on ChatGPT models, which for me at least means that if nobody pushes the envelope forward, neither DeepSeek or any other large language model would improve. So somebody has to do it, right?
Okay. Meta. NVIDIA stock is down 4% today. Does this news that DeepSeek, or let's say any news around DeepSeek, reinforce your view or bearish view on NVIDIA, or no change, or maybe something else? What do you think?
Just to be clear, it's not necessarily a bearish view. I think it's more of the market thinks it's going to go up more than I think it's going to go up, right? So that
so you do think NVIDIA stock is going to go up?
Yeah, I mean, I even said that like
Wow.
a year ago. Remember, I said like it could go up for another year or two. We're 1 year past, so now I'd say 0 to 1 year from here to stay consistent with the previous statements, right? I don't think it's going to fall necessarily, but I do think people are expecting it to go to an extreme that it's not going to go to. So when those expectations aren't met, at that point it will fall. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not necessarily making a call on the stock price, but you think the market expectations are ahead of NVIDIA's fundamentals. I have a short position. Bradford, do you have a long or short position on NVIDIA?
Yeah, I am long. Yep.
Okay. And we have Machine on the board, so I'm going to get to him in a second. Meta, go ahead.
I just want to be clear. I did sell a call spread that is long dated and high up.
I see, which means that you don't think it's going to surge, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Machine, then Bradford.
Yes. What is your question?
Okay, Bradford. Okay, Bradford took his hand down.
Sorry,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
took it down. I meant to unmute. So I do have some thoughts on the state of AI. Meta, they recently introduced a paper called Large Concept Models. And what they did was they took a baby step away from tokenization. It's my belief this is still early and it's a little hard to explain, but I believe that this whole way that they go about these large language models of tokenizing and chopping things up, and you basically get rid of this context, and then you have to maintain all these probability weights, and then that creates the necessity to do distillation and quantization. um, I think I think there may be a better way to go about all this compute, all this AI, where you're keeping concepts together. And
Okay.
there's ways where you can say something like the exact same thing and use, say it in 200 different ways, but
Okay.
like the concept is the same. And what Meta found was that if you keep the concept together, their compute went down by 10 times. But they didn't like take this whole idea to its logical conclusion. So they still used like all this probabilistic stuff, and they still had to use
Okay.
diffusion.
All right.
So
Thank
I
you.
think there's a
we have other
problem.
hands. We have other hands. I'm sorry, Bradford. Meta, go ahead.
Yeah, just to be clear, this comes up often. Quantization hasn't been used for like over 5 years now. So like that's
Right.
really not
Okay,
the approach.
I want to have a focused discussion here between Meta Machine and ACDC on the board, because he asked great questions from the investor's perspective. So we're going to focus on that. Machine, any views on NVIDIA, bull, bear at all?
No, I'm neutral right now. NVIDIA a year ago obviously was having tremendous growth, and their earnings were not reflecting anywhere near what their actual rate of earnings generation was in a specific quarter. It was just catching up because of the trailing 12 months. I haven't seen really where right now is their growth really massively continuing up to where current earnings are even undervalued. To me, I think not at that point. So I'm not really looking at it as a great investment.
Okay. You guys want to talk Tesla FSD then? Meta, if you have any thoughts on NVIDIA, GPUs, AMD, DeepSeek.
I am curious if people think that AMD is going to get picked up by cloud providers, or if they think that that'll continue to be NVIDIA.
What do you mean? If I think you misspoke. If AMD is going to get picked up by cloud, is MI300X? You mean?
That's what I meant. What did I say?
I thought you said NVIDIA.
Oh,
I mean, I
sorry.
would think so.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that be the case?
I think adding the extra complexity into a cloud environment without clear demand for it is unlikely. I think AMD has a very long road ahead of it. So this is just my way of saying, just because AMD is creating chips that make it viable for non-cloud providers, I don't think it makes it clear that it is viable for cloud providers, because they don't have, CUDA, they don't have various other things, they don't have strong, large amounts of demand that would justify it.
I thought Microsoft was already buying AMD chips. Is that not correct?
I think you're talking about CPUs, not GPUs.
I thought they were buying MI300X, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, you might be right. I'll heed to you because you've probably read on this more.
Microsoft is purchasing. This is ChatGPT 4.0. Microsoft is purchasing AMD's Instinct MI300X accelerators. These accelerators are integrated into Microsoft Azure cloud computing platform, offering customers an alternative to NVIDIA's AI processors. The new Azure AMD MI300X virtual machines are now generally available, providing customers access to impressive performance and efficiency for their most demanding AI workloads. According to a report by Omdia, Microsoft has acquired approximately 96,000 MI300X chips this year. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Do you have any other questions on AI that I can answer?
What do you think is the next best thing for us to do to increase memory?
I don't know. All I know is that short NVIDIA. Let's talk since we all agree on NVIDIA at this point. Let's talk FSD. So I propose a bunch of coffee bets at the top. First of all, Yeah, there's like 4 coffee bet proposals at the top. If anybody wants to accept one of them, just reply to it. I think all of them are taken already. Maybe the one all the way to the right is not taken yet. But maybe I'll make an exception. Teslas with hardware 4 will not get FSD unsupervised in 2025 or 2026. Machine, what do you think?
So sorry, say again, Tesla with hardware 4 or hardware 5?
No, hardware 4 will not get FSD unsupervised this year or next.
Oh, well, what do you define unsupervised as?
Literally FSD unsupervised on, let's say, any sort of operational domain restriction, doesn't matter, whether one city or highway, whatever.
Does there need to be a human in the seat?
Yeah, but the human can, there's no eye tracking on that stretch of the road.
Okay, but they may call the human
Yeah, they
to,
may, like,
to
level
take
3
over?
is fine. Yeah, it doesn't have to be level 4. Level 3 is fine.
No, I think they'll do that by next year.
Okay, interesting. Meta, what do you think? I mean, I guess Meta thinks that they will, yeah. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see if anyone got this bet already. FSC, yeah, John Smerlink got it. FSC unsupervised on hardware 4 by 2026, he said. So
I like how you verifying. You're like, wait, after this, it may be harder to get the bet.
Yeah. Meta, this one's for you. Meta, the company announced, Zuckerberg today said they're going to have $60 to $60 billion in capex this year. What do you think? I have a bet that says it's going to be less than 60 billion.
In tax?
No, capex.
CapEx. I think it'll probably be higher, wouldn't it? Didn't Microsoft just say they're going to do 80?
Yeah, but Meta, I think last year they were like 30 to 40 billion. So this would be a big jump, I think. So he said that they will do that. I said there's no way they're going to do more than 60 billion. Do you want to take Zuckerberg's side on this?
No, I don't want to take any coffee bets.
Okay. ACDC, do you want to take this one?
No, I agree that they will not.
Okay. Despite what Zuckerberg said. Okay. Machine, do you want to take this one?
No, I don't.
Okay. Meta?
What do you think is the limiting factor? You think they'll just not be able to bring servers up fast enough, or that they won't be able to get the hardware?
I think he's going to change his mind after the stock price dumps again. I think the stock market is done rewarding shoot first, aim later attitude.
Do you think that sustains with the new administration?
What do you mean?
The new president?
So does the new president change that? Yeah, I think so. I don't think the president changes the fundamentals of how profitable AI is going to be, or AI is at the moment. AI applications are.
If the president is successful in bullying the Fed into lowering the interest rates, that would change it, right?
I don't think the Fed will force the Fed. I don't think Trump is going to make Powell lower rates. I think the Fed may lower rates regardless. But this morning, Richmond Fed president came out and said, she doesn't see inflation as where it needs to be for even lower rates. So that's the latest indication that we have from a Fed official.
How much longer does Powell have on his 13-year term?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think the die is cast in terms of what's going to happen this year in the stock market. But maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? ACDC?
Yeah, kind of like a follow up to our conversation before. I wanted to pose this question to Meta and Machine. What do you think is the direct value that Meta generates from their AI in terms of revenue, straight to the bottom line?
Better ads if they focus on it.
So when you say better ads, does that mean the advertiser pays more for the ads?
No, one of the challenges in ads is to not show ads where the user doesn't want to see them, and to uh, show like images or content that actually gets them to want to click and buy it. That's an AI problem at the end of the day.
Correct, but that wouldn't translate to an advertiser wanting to increase their budget or anything, right? Or increase user base either.
So every year, most likely, Facebook has more advertisers willing to spend money than they have spaces for the advertisements. If they can get better about only showing the ads in the locations where the customers will actually click and do the ads, their conversion rates will go up for the same amount of eyeballs, which means they'll make more money.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. What do you guys, Meta and Machine, what do you guys think about the new Model Y? So my hypothesis on the new Model Y is that it's going to be very similar to the Model 3 Highland upgrade in terms of some initial hype, but the orders will underwhelm. Machine.
Depends on how many. I just don't want to say it because I'm gonna get bashed. But it really just depends on how many national socialists there are who want to buy the vehicles.
I think the only thing we can see for sure is that Model 3 sales are going to struggle. So it's kind of cannibalistic.
I mean, I don't know about that. Model 3 is much cheaper, especially as of now. I think the new Model Y price will decline in the coming quarters and everything, but we'll see by how much. It's hard to say Model 3 will struggle just because the new Model Y just came about. But the one thing I kind of realized in the last few weeks is almost 90% of EV sales in the world are in China, Europe, and California. And Californians hate Tesla and Elon. And people in Austin hate Elon and Tesla as well. A lot of people do. And the hundreds of millions of people that are far left in Europe are also the same. And in China, Tesla is facing maybe not as much hate on politics, but really severe competition from BYD and other Chinese automakers. So I struggle to see the 20-30% year-over-year growth that Elon forecasted last quarter for Tesla sales this year. I think it would be amazing if Tesla did not see year-over-year drop in deliveries this year. What do you guys think?
That's tough. Obviously, they were relatively flat versus last year, and there's been a little better performance at the end of 2024. But they also probably they offered more incentives, I believe. I guess we'll see in the earnings report really how much that affected, how much they needed to do there to get sales. Certainly Q1, there's no new models. So really Cybertruck ramp is the only change. And it doesn't seem like they're going to really ramp up higher. However, I mean, they've been saying they're going to offer a lower cost model at some point this year. And if that's true, you would think they would at least be able to get deliveries up higher from 2024. I don't know if net income would be higher from automotive, but I think deliveries would be.
Meta, what do you think?
I think as the tariff discussions ramp up and countries have to decide how to possibly increase their imports from US goods, the Tesla vehicles look very promising. So you could see an increase in sales from things like that. I don't know that I don't agree with the view that it's going to be like at risk of growth. I think there's still tons of people who want EVs, and I went to CES and I looked at all the cars. None of them are actually going to get made. So if you want an EV, it's just you only have a couple of options outside of China.
I don't know, because the guy who is the most accurate about production deliveries at the top of her screen says, "Here's what I think." This is 7 hours ago. He posted this morning, and this is very much in line with my expectation for the last few months now for 2025. Here's what I think about Tesla's vehicle deliveries this year: 1.9 million, very optimistic; 1.8 million, realistic; 1.7 million, below expectations. So that means 0% growth for back-to-back years on vehicle deliveries with declining margins. What's the value of that business? Meta?
I would just ground this with saying he's very accurate as you get closer to the time. He uses data to be very accurate, but he's not usually that accurate at the beginning.
I don't know. He's published some data that kind of disputes that widespread belief. I mean, I follow Troy very closely. He doesn't really adjust that much from beginning of the quarter to the end. He makes some last minute changes, but it's only a few thousand usually. So I think it's going to be spot on. I think it's going to be 1.8 million or lower, especially if these interest rates continue to be higher, which seems to be the case for now. So until further notice, especially with unemployment rate stable around 4.2%, but if you look at continuing claims, they continue to rise. They're the highest last week since November 2021. So the employment market is continuing to weaken, and we now have housing prices turning negative as well. So, I mean, as soon as people realize their home values are declining, they're going to tighten their purses even more, I think, on vehicle purchases. So, really, this whole argument right now hinges around how popular this new Model Y is going to be. And Troy posted this tweet on purpose this morning because he now knows what the new Model Y plans are. So I'd be shocked if Tesla shows any growth in terms of vehicle deliveries this year. Meta?
So the levers that Tesla has are they don't do a lot of sales on leasing right now, right? They could make the leasing options more attractive. They have the ability to reduce interest rates rather than to reducing price, which is basically, the same thing, but it can drive sales better as they've learned dropping prices has a much worse effect on the brand value. And there are other things they can continue to
They
do,
pulled
like
those. They've
offering
already
the
pulled those
software for
levers.
less.
They already
Pardon?
have leasing, very affordable leasing for Model 3. We literally within months after this new model was released, they have 0% financing for all of it. They already pulled those levels around the world. So what are the demand levers left to pull? Machine
The
learning, right, Meta?
the software is a big lever still, right? Like if you lower the price of FSD, if you start including parts of FSD into the
They are,
vehicle,
though. They are doing that. They have free trials month after month after month after month for the entire 2024 for all vehicles in the US. So they pull that lever too. So what else is gonna Tesla do? Is Elon's gonna sign all the vehicles that come off the production line? He's too busy at White House. Meta.
fleet sales are another option, which they have not pulled, right? Like rental fleets, discount deals for large bulk purchases. There's still many, many things that car companies do that Tesla doesn't do.
Yeah, I don't know. Machine, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think most people who are interested in FSD right now have it, and certainly if you cut price, you will induce some more. But I think we've done this calculation before about how much increase to margins would this contribute to. The problem is if you cut the price in half, will you double the number of people who use FSD? Maybe, but if you double, you're back at neutral because you have the price. So if you have the price, you need to have triple the number of people use FSD. And I don't know if they're at that leverage to where they're actually going to increase profits by cutting price. I don't know if it's good enough yet. I don't know if people care enough about it as an L2 software. And this again is against my hypothesis that I thought 3 years ago. I thought a good enough L2, then everyone would want this thing on their car. But in practice, as amazing as it is, I don't think people do.
Yeah. Hi, I want to ask a question because Phil Dewan, who works at Tesla, replied to James Wang and said, prepare to be shocked after James Wang said he's a long Tesla investor, but he thinks that FSD is 100 times behind Waymo. And, I pinned at the top the section from Elon's defense legal team talking about Elon's claims in the past and labeling them as mere puffing, corporate puffery and optimism, and that no reasonable investor would rely on such statements. So, with that context, Meta, what do you think about Phil Dewan's reply? Prepare to be shocked.
Phil doesn't usually hype things up. I think this is a statement around, I'm hoping the context window finally shipping soon. And I personally am most excited about that. So I wouldn't be shocked personally, but I think many will be shocked by the impacts of that, especially when it comes to lane selection, routing, staging. Basically, the only issues I still have with the car, I wouldn't call them disengagements because even yesterday it missed an off ramp, it went around and it came back and it corrected itself. It just adds time to the trip.
Can you explain what routing means? So, lane selection, we know. How does it help routing?
When I say routing, I mean like you're on the highway and it's saying you need to take a right coming up and it takes the wrong right.
Gotcha. Okay, so you think the context window, 3 times the context window, is going to solve most of the rest of the problems that FSD has?
Most of the rest of the problems I have in California.
Okay. And then FSD unsupervised imminent after that.
Yeah, I'd be confused if they don't release unsupervised in California in the first half of the year. I'm going to be very confused why not, and I would start thinking or hoping that the investors would start asking, what's the hang up in these areas? Why aren't you releasing the data?
Machine, do you agree with that? That the 3 times the context window is going to solve most of the rest of the problems that FSD has?
I don't think I'm clear on a breakdown of exactly how frequent and what are all the main problems left. Because some of them are certainly going to depend on context window. The more time you have, obviously, 15 seconds, 20 seconds is going to help. However, for issues, if there's anything left of perception, which I know is less frequent, then that's not as important to that. So I do tend to agree with Meta that I'm sure context window will reduce the amount of errors, perhaps significantly. I'm just not sure if it brings you to the level of unsupervised. It depends on what you call unsupervised as, right? What level do you actually need to get to reach that threshold to where if the person is still sitting in the car, can you drive it and only tell them when to take over with 10 seconds or something like an L3 system? That's more feasible than literally the person doesn't have to be in the car. So I honestly don't know. I think it will help, but I still would tend to believe it's not truly going to be unsupervised then.
I mean, there is no system today that is operating in multiple cities, city centers, not highways, in an unsupervised manner other than Waymo robotaxis. Is that correct?
I mean, I don't know with Zoox or whoever, but not in multiple cities. But I would say even with Waymo, we agree, right? Waymo has remote operators that do some intervention. So but that's a key part. If you're saying prepared to be amazed, maybe we're prepared to be amazed that Tesla has built the infrastructure and software to do that, to do the remote intervention, and that could be a game changer in itself. And that part has nothing to do with the models getting better, just more smart in terms of them alerting when they don't know, right? They have a better estimate of their own uncertainty.
Right. Yeah. NVIDIA down 3.5%. If Wes can come up, I have a couple of questions for him from this morning as well, and curious about his thoughts about DeepSeek on AMD's MI300X GPUs. Machine, do you today, I feel like you changed your opinion on this a couple of times, but do you think Optimus or Robotaxi will generate $1 billion in profits first?
I think if they're able to integrate some sort of remote intervention system like Waymo, then I think Robotaxi has the advantage. My whole premise before was that they were going for straight unsupervised, like pure unsupervised, and that's much harder to get to. But if they think that's scalable to do remote intervention, have a suite of 100 Indians or Vietnamese in the basement somewhere with a Starlink that are going and clicking buttons to tell the car where to go, that could be profitable. That might be scalable.
I mean, Waymo isn't profitable, so why would Tesla be profitable?
I mean, Waymo has all sorts of other issues with their operational costs that are different from Tesla's. So I don't know if that's the only reason that they're not profitable. I mean, they have a bajillion employees just on this, that way more than Waymo than Tesla does, and the cost of their vehicles are higher. I don't know if you can compare them apples to apples.
Is Wes coming up? Let's see. Send him an invite to speak. Machine, any thoughts on DeepSeek replicating O1 performance with 1/10 the expense? And what does that mean for NVIDIA?
No thoughts right now.
Okay, Wes, welcome. What do you think of AMD's announcement that DeepSeek V3 is now an Instinct MI300X GPUs?
Sorry, I just caught the tail end of that. Something about AMD GPUs?
Yeah, AMD announced that it now is hosting DeepSeek V3 running on its own MI300X GPUs designed for peak performance with SG-Lang. DeepSeek V3 is optimized for AI inferencing. Special thanks to DeepSeek teams for their close collaboration.
Did they, by chance, reference the efficiency delta between the H100s or whatever they're running on NVIDIA?
I'm not sure. I pinned the announcement at the top, but I can't read that and let you know.
Yeah, I would just be interested to know the efficiency difference. So it's much easier to do inference across different accelerators. So like the difference between an NVIDIA GPU and a Google TPU could potentially be very similar. So I'm interested to know the efficiency delta. If the efficiency delta is low, then they've created something that is very cool, and that could disrupt NVIDIA. Because largely to date, AMD GPUs have not hosted well with good efficiency relative to similar NVIDIA GPUs at inference time. So that would be interesting. And I know that Machine might and Meta might have feedback on that too.
Machine, what do you think? Machine, as usual, when you throw some good questions at him, he left. Wes, do you have like 5 minutes for me to read this announcement by AMD?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I should have until about 12:30.
Okay, perfect. AMD Instinct GPUs power DeepSeek V3, revolutionizing AI development with SG-Lang. AMD is excited to announce the integration of the new DeepSeek V3 model from DeepSeek on AMD Instinct GPUs, optimized for performance powered by SG-Lang. And there's a link to GitHub. This integration will help accelerate the development of cutting-edge AI applications and experiences. DeepSeek V3 is an open-source, multimodal AI model designed to empower developers with unparalleled performance and efficiency. By seamlessly integrating advanced capabilities for processing both text and visual data, DeepSeek V3 sets a new benchmark for productivity, driving innovation, etc. DeepSeek V3 model is a strong mixture of experts language model with 671 billion total parameters with 37 billion activated for each token to achieve efficient inference and cost-effective training. DeepSeek V3 adopts multi-head latent attention (MLA) and DeepSeek MOE architectures, which were a part of its predecessor DeepSeek V2. Furthermore, DeepSeek V3 pioneers an auxiliary loss-free strategy for load balancing and sets a multi-token prediction training objective for stronger performance. DeepSeek V3 allows developers to work with advanced models, leveraging memory capabilities to enable processing text and visual data at once, enabling broad access to latest advancements, and giving developers more features. DeepSeek V3 achieves the best performance on most benchmarks, especially on math on code tasks. Anything so far, Wes? Any insights so far?
No, this all sounds good so far. Basically, they're going through and they're explaining how they implemented it on top of the AMD GPU. And my thought would be if that is different in any way, because all of these things are essentially features that they can turn off and toggle and twiddle and all that.
Okay, so basically what I'm essentially looking for here is anything in this announcement that would make you question your investment in NVIDIA. Okay, that's the lens we're looking through this announcement. So,
not so far. They
okay.
would need, just to put it in very straightforward, blunt terms, they'd need a graph showing efficiency deltas. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, I don't think they have graphs here, but let me read this next section. AMD Instinct GPU developed accelerators and DeepSeek V3. AMD Instinct GPUs accelerators are transforming the landscape of multimodal AI models such as DeepSeek V3, which require immense computational resources and memory bandwidth to process text and visual data. AMD Instinct accelerators deliver outstanding performance in these areas. Leveraging AMD ROCm software and AMD Instinct GPU accelerators across key stages of DeepSeek V3 development further strengthens a long-standing collaboration with AMD and commitment to open software approach for AI. Scalable infrastructure from AMD enables developers to build powerful visual reasoning and understanding applications. Extensive FP floating point 8 support in ROCm can significantly improve the process of running AI models, especially on the inference side. It helps solve key issues such as memory bottlenecks and high latency issues related to more read-write formats, enabling larger models and batches to be processed within the same hardware constraints, resulting in a more efficient training and inference process. In addition, FP8 reduced precision calculations can reduce delays in data transmission and calculations. AMD ROCm extends support for FP8 in its ecosystem, enabling performance and efficiency improvements in everything from frameworks to libraries. Anything so far?
This is great. So they're referencing ROC. That's the competitor to CUDA. So if they're using this for inference and they're getting good efficiencies, then I'd be very interested in that data. I'd be looking for that.
Okay, great. Inference with SGLang on AMD Instinct GPUs. SGLang fully supports the DeepSeek V3 model inference models. There's a link to GitHub. Generic build for ROCm Docker image. To build Docker image with ROCm support, follow these steps. There's some coding language here that I don't quite understand. 1, launch the Docker container. 2, get started. 3, benchmark. Accuracy 0.952, invalid 0.000. Anything on that front?
Yeah, so they're starting to hint at efficiency or benchmark data. Do they give any benchmark data?
In the third benchmark, it says 1 batch throughput and latency. Python 3, SGLang bench 1 batch size 32, input 128, output 32, model DeepSeek AI, DeepSeek V3, TP8, trust remote code.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what I'm looking for, honestly, but.
Yeah, I would need to compare this to what they're doing on NVIDIA, because if they're running FP8, floating point 8 or int8 or whatever, then that's interesting.
Really?
That's like normal inference, and that's good for them. If they're running int4 is much easier and much faster, but it's also much more lightweight, and that could also be interesting if the efficiency is high.
Does this data say anything? Accuracy 0.952, invalid 0.000?
No, that without other corresponding data, it's maybe a bit useless. We'd have to see relative, because it's all in their model and in the data that surrounds their model. So we'd have to see it relative to NVIDIA. That's the thing that's important.
Okay. There's a couple more lines of code here. I can read that to you if you want, if that was the Python stuff was helpful.
No, they're giving a fair bit of data. So again, I want to see what they exposed for
Okay.
NVIDIA, because
Okay.
apparently they've exposed all the weights. So you should have the ability to recreate this on NVIDIA. And if they've done the same for AMD, then somebody's going to produce that graph quickly.
Okay.
Like
Thank you.
today, probably.
Okay, perfect. AMD and DeepSeek collaboration day zero sports readiness. With the release of DeepSeek V3, AMD continues its tradition of fostering innovation through close collaboration with DeepSeek team. This partnership ensures that developers are fully equipped to leverage the DeepSeek V3 model or AMD Instinct GPUs right from day zero, providing a broader choice of GPUs, hardware, and open software stack. ROCm for optimized performance and scalability. AMD will continue optimizing DeepSeek V3 performance with CK tile-based kernels on AMD Instinct GPUs. AMD is committed to collaborate with open source model providers to accelerate AI innovation and empower developers to create the next generation of AI experiences. Anything so far?
Did you hear me?
Yeah, no, I couldn't hear you. Let's say it again.
It's all boilerplate. That's
Okay.
what I'm getting out of this. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then there's an acknowledgement with special thanks and additional resources to explore AMD ROCm software, open software stack, some links to AMD website, Hugging Face, DeepSeek V3 on Hugging Face, etc. You can chat with DeepSeek V3.
Oh, that's interesting. So do they say that they're running on top of Hugging Face?
It
Are
says
they using their
it just says learn more about DeepSeek V3 on Hugging Face, including architecture and performance benchmarks, and
great.
there's a link.
Great. So yeah, Hugging Face will, in and of themselves, they will do that comparison.
Okay.
Because that's what they do.
Okay, I'm sending you the link to AMD's announcement via DM.
Cool. Thanks.
And I just clicked on the Hugging Face introduction. Oh, there's some graphs. You're right. I think I've seen these graphs before in the video that you mentioned the other day. I watched that video. It's pretty cool. And I'll send you the Hugging Face link as well. All right, this is very helpful. Thank you very much, Wes. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I also appreciate you reading that. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. So are you selling your NVIDIA shares or no? Because otherwise it's not material.
No, I'm not.
There you go.
Yeah, there's other aspects about DeepSeek that are way too interesting that, there's enough room. If AMD starts getting in the game, that's just going to make the competition heat up.
Okay. So do you see today's 4% drop in NVIDIA stock as an opportunity to add more shares?
No, I actually didn't see what the current price is, so I'm not in the market for that. I'm in the market for more Tesla soon, though.
Okay. Soon meaning after the earnings announcement?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully some 2025 expectations that are set during the earnings call.
Okay. Earlier we were talking about deliveries, but you're talking about Optimus expectations, I believe, right?
I'm looking for Giga Shanghai targets, as well as Shanghai Mega Factory. I'm looking for FSD beta in which cities and when. Hopefully they say H1 or first year of 2025. And then I'm looking for Optimus numbers end of 25.
Okay, got it. All right, we can talk about that another time. ACDC, any questions for Wes?
Yeah, I had a question on the DeepSeek and AMD GPUs partnership. Let's say if it's proven to be more efficient and effective, where will they be the ideal fit? Is it going to be, can it be, first of all, with existing hyperscalers? And if not, where does Wes think that could be a good fit? Like who would be using those? Like,
Wes, did you hear ACDC?
No. In fact, I thought I'd lost you. I heard nothing.
Oh, okay. ACDC, I'm going to move you down and bring you back up so you can ask a question again. Wes, do you think this will lead to a mixed shift from hyperscalers between AMD's MI300X and NVIDIA's Hopper or Blackwell? Let's say for Microsoft, Meta, or Amazon.
Potentially, again, we need to see the efficiency. Also, if these AMDs were just sitting idle, they're much cheaper. And if the NVIDIAs are like fully populated and running all the time, they're much more expensive. To get that compute time. So if the AMDs are idle, then it's much cheaper to run on AMDs. Now there is work to get them to run on the AMDs, so there's a trade-off there. So I'm looking for what the efficiency is and what that trade-off pros and cons look like.
Thank you. ACDC, go ahead.
yeah, I think that was a part answer to my question. So Wes, can these work then in conjunction with NVIDIA GPUs in the existing hyperscaling models?
Potentially, it just depends on how their test time scaling works. If these GPUs are in the same cluster, which they could easily be in the same cluster, or I know this is getting a bit technical, but the backplane of the data center, if the backplane can talk to all of these, then we are talking about maybe like microsecond level communication abilities and tying those two together. This is essentially what I was talking about, I think, yesterday with Tesla cars. Like, at test time scaling, the time between your cycles can be up to, many seconds. So like if they're at the millisecond level, this could greatly expand the scaling law for test time, if that's the case. So that would be interesting. So I would expect us to see some announcement from them that says that they can run on both NVIDIA and AMD to scale test time even faster. Then we would know. That would be very telling.
All right. I think Microsoft is already buying AMD's MI300X, right, Wes?
Yeah, AMD works, their GPUs work for several different types of workloads, just like NVIDIA GPUs. So almost every data center has both. They just usually don't cite AMDs as supported for large AI inference or training.
Right. Okay. I think we're on the same page, at least on each other's views. Markets are down today. Dow Jones all markets drifted lower throughout the day, especially in the afternoon. S&P 500 down 0.5%, Nasdaq almost 1% lower, led by down by Nvidia, down almost 4%. All right, if there's nothing else, then we can wrap this up and then continue tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody. And I will chat with you all next time. Enjoy your weekends and take care. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate you joining us late.
Yeah, thanks.